The boardroom fell silent as the small girl's hands moved with surprising precision. Across the table, the powerful CEO's face drained of color, recognizing a gesture he hadn't seen in decades. In that moment, everything changed. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories that will leave you speechless. Everyone at Horizon Enterprises was buzzing about the impromptu Take Your Child to Work Day. Robert Maxwell, the 58-year-old CEO, had announced it just yesterday, something he'd never done in his 30 years leading the company. Eleanor Sullivan, head of human resources, was scrambling to arrange activities for the children. At 49, she'd seen Robert's occasional eccentricities, but this was unusual even for him. He specifically asked about children aged 7 to 9, Eleanor told her assistant. Since when does Robert care about kids? In a modest apartment 15 miles away, Lisa Parker, 32, was helping her daughter Lily get ready. At 8 years old, Lily had never set foot in the towering glass headquarters where her mother had once worked as an executive assistant, before the accident that had taken both Lisa's job and Lily's hearing. "Remember what I taught you," Lisa signed to her daughter, her movements deliberate and precise. "If you see him, if you see Mr. Maxwell, you make this sign." Her hands formed a pattern that wasn't standard American Sign Language. Lily nodded, her bright blue eyes, so like her father's, focused intently on her mother's hands. She repeated the sign perfectly. "Only if you see him alone," Lisa emphasized. "No one else can see." 5 years had passed since Lisa had worked at Horizon. 5 years since she'd been fired while in the hospital with Lily after the car crash. 5 years of struggling to make ends meet as a single mother with a special needs child. Lisa hesitated, wondering if she was doing the right thing, using her daughter like this. But what choice did she have? The medical bills were mounting, and the eviction notice wasn't going to disappear on its own. "Ready?" She signed. Lily nodded, adjusting her hearing aids. Though profoundly deaf, the devices helped her sense some sounds. Vibrations more than actual hearing. Her teacher at the school for the deaf had told Lisa that Lily was exceptionally gifted at reading lips and facial expressions. As they boarded the bus to downtown, Lisa couldn't help but think of David, her late husband. What would he think of what she was about to do? Robert Maxwell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching as employees' cars pulled into the parking lot. Many had children in tow, all because of his impulsive announcement. His assistant, Caroline, entered with his morning coffee. "Sir, we have 37 children registered for today," she said, placing the cup on his desk. "Ages range from 4 to 14. Is there anything specific you're looking for?" Robert turned, his face unreadable. At 58, he had achieved everything he'd ever wanted professionally. Horizon Enterprises had grown from a small tech startup to a Fortune 500 company under his leadership. His personal fortune was estimated at over $3 billion. And yet, "Just make sure I meet each child," he said, "especially those between 7 and 9. Caroline nodded, though her curiosity was evident. In 15 years working for Robert, she'd never seen him show interest in children. He had no kids of his own, having never married. Office rumors suggested a tragic love affair in his youth, but no one knew details. Robert dismissed her with a wave. Once alone, he opened his desk drawer and removed a faded photograph, a young woman with honey blonde hair and striking blue eyes, laughing at the camera. He hadn't seen Madison in nearly 30 years, not since she'd walked away from him, pregnant with his child. "I should have searched harder," he whispered to the photo before tucking it away. His private investigator had found traces of Madison in Chicago about 20 years ago, but the trail had gone cold. If his child had been born, they would be around 29 now, which meant his grandchild, if such a person existed, could be around 8. Downstairs, Lily and Lisa Parker had arrived at Horizon Enterprises. Lisa knelt before her daughter outside the gleaming building. "Remember, only if you're alone with him," she signed. "The sign is our secret." Lily nodded solemnly. Despite her age, she understood the seriousness of their situation. The eviction notice on their refrigerator had made that clear. This wasn't just a fun day at Mommy's old workplace. This was their last hope. The lobby of Horizon Enterprises had been transformed into a carnival of sorts. Balloons floated against the high ceiling, and activity stations dotted the normally austere space. Eleanor Sullivan was directing staff members with clipboard efficiency. "The robotics demonstration is at 10, the ice cream social at 11:30, she announced. "Mr. Maxwell will greet families individually starting at 9. Lisa Parker kept a tight hold on Lily's hand as they checked in. The security guard squinted at Lisa's name badge. "Parker, I don't see you on the employee list," he said suspiciously. Lisa's heart raced. "I'm a former employee. I worked as Mr. Maxwell's executive assistant 5 years ago." The guard's expression changed to recognition. "Oh, right. You're the one who—" He stopped himself. "Well, nice to see you back. And who's this little one?" "My daughter, Lily. She's deaf, but she reads lips well." Lily smiled on cue, having watched her mother's mouth form the familiar explanation she'd seen countless times. The guard waved them through, and Lisa exhaled. The hardest part would be getting close to Robert. He'd surely have handlers keeping people at a distance. Across the room, Robert was making his entrance, flanked by Caroline and 2 security personnel. His eyes scanned the children, methodically assessing each one. Lisa pulled Lily behind a display board. "That's him," she signed to her daughter. "The tall man in the blue suit. Remember the special sign?" Lily nodded, peering around the board at the intimidating figure. She'd never seen her mother so nervous. What Lisa hadn't told Lily was the truth about her father. David Parker hadn't been her biological father, though he'd raised her since she was 2. Lily's real father was the man now moving through the crowd, shaking tiny hands with a forced smile. Robert Maxwell had never known about Lily. Madison, Lisa's older sister, had never told him she was pregnant before breaking off their engagement. When Madison died in childbirth, Lisa and David had raised Lily as their own. But now, with David gone, medical bills crushing her, and an eviction looming, Lisa had made the hardest decision of her life: to reveal to Robert Maxwell that he had a granddaughter. The secret sign Lily had memorized wasn't just random. It was a gesture Madison and Robert had created during their relationship, their own private "I love you." If anything would convince him, that would. The morning progressed with Robert mechanically greeting each family. His eyes betrayed his growing disappointment as child after child failed to show any resemblance to Madison. "Perhaps this was foolish," he murmured to Caroline after meeting a particularly rambunctious 7-year-old boy. "Sir, there are still several families waiting," Caroline replied, "including a former employee, Lisa Parker." Robert frowned. "Parker? The name isn't familiar." "She was your assistant briefly, about 5 years ago, left after an accident." Caroline checked her tablet. "Her personnel file says she has a daughter who would be 8 now." Interest flickered in Robert's eyes. "Arrange for me to meet them privately. Use my conference room." Across the lobby, Lisa was growing anxious. Robert had been meeting families in the open area, but now his assistant was directing him toward the elevators. "Change of plans," Lisa signed to Lily. "We need to get his attention now." She guided Lily through the crowd, approaching one of the staff members. "Excuse me, we were told Mr. Maxwell wanted to meet all the children. We haven't had our turn yet." The young man consulted his list. "Parker?" "Yes, Mr. Maxwell has requested a private meeting. Please follow me to the conference room on the 30th floor." Lisa's heart leapt. A private meeting? Had he recognized her name? Did he suspect something? The elevator ride was silent. Lisa squeezed Lily's hand, offering reassurance she didn't feel. The young staff member attempted small talk. "Your daughter is very pretty. Those blue eyes are striking." Lisa nodded tightly. Madison's eyes, Robert's eyes. The conference room was intimidating. A long table of polished mahogany surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city below. Robert Maxwell stood at the head, his back to them as they entered. "Mr. Maxwell, Lisa Parker, and her daughter Lily," the staff member announced before retreating. Robert turned slowly. His gaze passed over Lisa without recognition, then landed on Lily. For a moment, something flickered in his expression, a recognition of the familiar blue eyes, but it was quickly suppressed. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Parker. I understand you used to work here." Lisa nodded. "Yes, sir. I was your executive assistant for about 8 months, 5 years ago." Robert showed no recollection. "I see. And this is your daughter?" "This is Lily. She's deaf, but she reads lips very well." Lily smiled politely, studying the tall man with curious intensity. Robert knelt to Lily's level, his knees creaking slightly. "Hello, Lily. It's very nice to meet you." Lily's eyes darted to her mother, questioning. Lisa gave an almost imperceptible nod. "I understand you're deaf," Robert said slowly, making sure Lily could see his lips. "That must be challenging." Lisa translated into sign language, though Lily had understood perfectly. The girl nodded, then surprised Robert by speaking aloud, her voice slightly flat but understandable. "Sometimes, but I'm good at other things." Robert smiled, genuinely this time. There was something about this child that tugged at him. Perhaps it was her composure, unusual in one so young, or maybe those eyes, so startlingly familiar. "What things are you good at?" he asked. "Drawing," Lily signed with Lisa translating, "and math and secret codes." Robert chuckled. "Secret codes? That sounds interesting." Caroline entered with a tray of refreshments, momentarily distracting Robert. When he turned back, he noticed Lisa checking her watch anxiously. "Do you have another appointment, Miss Parker?" "No, sir, we have a situation at home that's been on my mind." "Mommy's worried about the bad paper," Lily signed, not realizing Lisa wasn't translating. Robert raised an eyebrow. "Bad paper?" Lisa flushed. "It's nothing. Lily, remember what we discussed about private matters?" But Robert's interest was piqued. "I'd like to know what she meant, if you don't mind." Lisa hesitated, then sighed. "We received an eviction notice yesterday. I've been struggling since the accident that took my job and Lily's hearing." "The accident happened while you worked here?" "Yes, a delivery truck ran a red light. I was hospitalized for weeks. Lily lost her hearing completely." Robert frowned. "And you were terminated?" "Not exactly. I received a letter stating my position had been filled due to extended absence. There was a small severance package." Robert made a mental note to investigate this. It wasn't company policy to terminate employees for medical absences. Something wasn't right. "What do you do now, Ms. Parker?" "I work 2 part-time jobs, one as a virtual assistant, another at a bookstore on weekends. It's not enough with Lily's medical bills, but—" She stopped, embarrassed by her oversharing. "I'm sorry. That's not why we came today." Robert studied her face, sensing there was indeed another reason. He glanced at Lily, who was looking between the adults with keen awareness. "Why did you come, Ms. Parker?" Before Lisa could answer, Caroline returned. "Mr. Maxwell, your 10:30 meeting is waiting." "Cancel it," Robert said without looking away from Lisa. "In fact, clear my schedule until noon." When they were alone again, Robert turned his full attention to Lily. "Your mother says you're good at secret codes. Do you know any interesting ones?" This was the moment. Lisa nodded almost imperceptibly to her daughter. Lily's small hands began to move in a pattern that wasn't standard ASL. It was fluid, almost like a dance, a gesture that Robert Maxwell hadn't seen in nearly 3 decades. Robert Maxwell's face drained of color. His fingers gripped the edge of the conference table as he stared at the child's hands, completing the secret gesture that only 2 people in the world had known, himself and Madison. "Where?" his voice cracked. "Where did you learn that?" Lisa stepped forward. "Mr. Maxwell, there's something I need to tell you." The door swung open as Eleanor Sullivan entered with a stack of papers. "Robert, I need your signature on these before—" She stopped, noticing the tension in the room. "I'm sorry. I'll come back." "No." Robert's voice was strained. "We'll continue this conversation elsewhere." He turned to Lisa. "My private office, now." The elevator ride to the penthouse level was silent and tense. Lily held tightly to her mother's hand, sensing the gravity of the situation. Robert stood rigidly, his mind racing through possibilities, none of which made sense. How could this child know a gesture he and Madison had created in private? Once inside his office, Robert closed the door and turned to face Lisa and Lily. His composure had returned, but his eyes were intense. "Explain," he said simply. Lisa took a deep breath. "Madison Miller was my older sister." The statement hung in the air like a physical thing. Robert's expression didn't change, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the back of his chair. "Madison never told you she was pregnant when she left," Lisa continued. "She died during childbirth. Her daughter, Lily, was raised by me and my late husband." Robert's eyes darted to Lily, who was watching his lips carefully. The blue eyes. Madison's delicate nose, his own determined chin. "That's not possible," he said, but without conviction. "Madison taught me the gesture before she died. She said it was something special between you two. I've kept her journal all these years." Lisa reached into her purse and withdrew a worn, leather-bound book. "This belongs to you now." Robert took the journal with trembling hands. He opened it to find Madison's familiar handwriting, the same loops and curves he'd memorized from love notes decades ago. An envelope was tucked into the first page, addressed to him in her hand. "Why now?" he asked, looking up from the journal. "It's been 8 years. I never intended to tell you. Madison made me promise not to." Lisa's voice hardened slightly. "She was heartbroken when you chose the company over her." Robert's jaw tightened. "That's not what happened. It's what she believed." Lisa sighed. "When David was alive, we managed. After the accident, things got harder. Now, with the eviction." She straightened her shoulders. "I'm not asking for money, Mr. Maxwell. I just thought you should know you have a granddaughter." Robert stared at Lily, who had moved to the window to watch the tiny cars below. His granddaughter. The concept was so foreign he could barely process it. "She has your eyes," Lisa said softly. "And your stubbornness." Robert turned to the journal in his hands, opening the envelope with care. The letter inside was dated just days before Madison's death. "Robert, if you're reading this, I didn't survive bringing our child into the world. I've asked Lisa to raise our baby as her own, away from the corporate empire that always meant more to you than I did. I never told you about the pregnancy because I knew you'd try to take control, just as you did with everything else. Our child deserves a normal life, not one shadowed by your wealth and ambition. I loved you, Robert, but I couldn't live in the cage you were building, golden though it was." Madison Roberts' hand shook as he finished reading. How wrong she had been, how tragically, catastrophically wrong. "She never knew I searched for her," he said quietly. "For years, I had investigators trying to find her. When I finally located her in Chicago, she had already died." "She moved there to start fresh," Lisa confirmed. "She told everyone the father was a soldier who died overseas." Robert closed his eyes briefly, absorbing the pain of decades of misunderstanding. Then he looked at Lily again, studying her with new eyes. "Does she know about me?" Lisa shook her head. She knows David wasn't her biological father. I told her after he died 2 years ago. She knows her birth father is alive, but doesn't know who. I was going to wait until she was older. Robert nodded, then slowly approached Lily by the window. He knelt beside her, wincing slightly at the pressure on his aging knees. "You have your mother's eyes," he signed carefully, the movements rusty from disuse. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. "You know sign language," she signed back. "A little. I learned a long time ago." Robert hadn't used ASL since college, when he'd taken courses while dating a deaf classmate before meeting Madison. Lisa watched in astonishment as Lily and Robert communicated in sign language. She hadn't known he could sign. "Why did you learn?" Lily asked. Robert's answer was simple: for someone special, long ago. Lisa approached them. "Mr. Maxwell, what happens now?" Robert stood, decision made. "First, you'll both move into my guest house until we find you a proper home. Second, I want to know everything about Lily, her medical needs, her education, her interests. Third," he turned to face Lisa fully, "I want a DNA test, not because I doubt you, but because I'll need it to make Lily my legal heir." The word heir hung in the air between them. "That's not why we came," Lisa protested. "I know," Robert said, "but it's what Madison would have wanted once she knew the truth." 3 weeks later, Lisa stood in the kitchen of Robert's guest house, a modest 5-bedroom home on his estate in Greenwich, Connecticut. The gleaming countertops and high-end appliances still felt surreal after years of struggle in their tiny apartment. The DNA results had arrived yesterday, confirming what they already knew. Robert was Lily's biological grandfather. Since then, Robert had been closeted with lawyers, making arrangements Lisa could only guess at. Through the window, she could see Lily and Robert in the garden. He was teaching her to play chess on a stone table, his hands moving in sign language as he explained the rules. The sight still startled Lisa, seeing the formidable Robert Maxwell so gentle with her daughter. Her phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor Sullivan. "Meeting set for tomorrow, 10 a.m. at Horizon. 10 a.m. at..." Since discovering the truth about Lily, Robert had been investigating what had happened after Lisa's accident. Eleanor had been helping him piece together the events that had led to Lisa's termination. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Lisa opened the door to find Caroline, Robert's assistant, holding a large envelope. "Mr. Maxwell asked me to deliver this to you personally," Caroline said, her expression unreadable. "He said you should review it before tomorrow's meeting." Inside the envelope, Lisa found legal documents, lots of them. The first was a trust fund established for Lily, with assets valued at $20 million. The second was a deed to a house in Westport, Connecticut, in both Lisa and Lily's names. The third was an employment contract, offering Lisa the position of Family Trust Administrator at Horizon Enterprises, with a salary that made her dizzy. The final document was a letter of apology, signed by Thomas Brennan, the company's former chief operating officer. It detailed how he had terminated Lisa without Robert's knowledge during Robert's extended business trip to Asia. As Lisa processed this information, the back door opened. Lily ran in, signing excitedly about beating Robert at chess. Robert followed, a bemused expression on his face. "She's a natural strategist," he said to Lisa. "Beat me in 12 moves." Lisa held up the envelope. "What is all this?" Robert's expression turned serious. "What should have been done years ago? Tomorrow, we confront Brennan about his unauthorized actions regarding your employment. He's been embezzling for years, using terminations like yours to cover his tracks. But the trust fund, the house, are not negotiable," Robert said firmly. "Madison would have wanted Lily provided for." He hesitated. "And I'd like you both close by." Lisa struggled with conflicting emotions. Pride urged her to refuse his generosity. Practicality reminded her of Lily's ongoing medical needs and educational requirements. I can't just accept all this, she said finally. Robert studied her for a moment. Madison was the same way, fiercely independent. He smiled sadly. But this isn't charity, Lisa, it's family. He looked at Lily, who was watching their lips carefully. I've lost 30 years I can never get back. Let me do this. Before Lisa could respond, Robert's security chief appeared at the door, his expression grave. Sir, there's been a development. Thomas Brennan is attempting to access the company's servers remotely. AT is blocking him, but he's trying to delete files. Robert's demeanor changed instantly. The gentle grandfather replaced by the ruthless CEO. Lock down everything. Call the authorities. He turned to Lisa. I need to handle this. We'll continue our discussion later. As he left, Lisa realized how quickly their lives had changed, and how fragile this new reality might be if Thomas Brennan was desperate enough to commit cybercrimes to cover his tracks. The Horizon Enterprises boardroom felt cavernous as Lisa sat beside Robert, facing Thomas Brennan and his lawyer across the polished table. Eleanor Sullivan and the company's legal team flanked them, along with two serious-looking FBI agents. Lily was safe at the estate with Robert's trusted housekeeper, Mrs. Chen. Lisa had wanted to keep her away from this confrontation. Thomas Brennan, 61, looked considerably older than when Lisa had last seen him 5 years ago. His once imposing presence had diminished, shoulders hunched beneath his expensive suit. The evidence is incontrovertible, Tom, Robert was saying, his voice cold. 5 years of falsified terminations, diverted severance packages, shell companies receiving Horizon funds. He pushed a folder across the table, including Ms. Parker's wrongful termination while I was in Beijing. Brennan's lawyer examined the documents, his expression growing increasingly concerned. We'll need a moment, he said finally. You have 5 minutes, one of the FBI agents responded. Then we continue with or without your input. As Brennan and his lawyer conferred in whispers, Eleanor leaned toward Lisa. We've identified 17 employees terminated under similar circumstances, she murmured, all while Robert was traveling, all with reduced severance, the difference funneled to Brennan's accounts. Lisa nodded, still processing the magnitude of the betrayal. Brennan had been Robert's right hand for over 20 years, trusted implicitly. When Brennan returned to the table, he looked defeated. Robert, this isn't what it appears. Save it for your arraignment, Robert cut him off. What I want to know is why. You were well compensated, respected, practically family. Brennan laughed bitterly. Family? You don't know the meaning of the word. 30 years I gave you, and you still treated me like an employee. You were an employee, Robert replied evenly. Who covered for you when you were chasing Madison? Brennan's composure cracked. Who built this company while you spent 2 years in a depression after she left? Robert's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. I deserved more, Brennan continued, his voice breaking. A partnership, recognition. Instead, you kept everything for yourself. No wife, no children, no heir. Just your precious company that would die with you. Lisa watched Robert's expression shift subtly at the mention of an heir. Brennan didn't know about Lily yet. So you decided to help yourself to what you deserved, Robert said quietly. What else was I supposed to do? Brennan demanded. Wait for scraps in your will? The FBI agents moved forward. Thomas Brennan, you're under arrest for wire fraud, embezzlement and computer crimes. As they led Brennan away, he turned back to Robert. You'll die alone, Robert, surrounded by your billions and nothing else. When the room had cleared except for Robert, Lisa and Eleanor, Robert finally spoke. He's wrong, you know, about dying alone. He looked at Lisa. Thanks to you. Eleanor glanced between them, puzzled. Eleanor, Robert said, what I'm about to tell you remains absolutely confidential until I make a formal announcement. he proceeded to explain about Madison, Lily, and the DNA confirmation. Eleanor's professional composure slipped only once when her eyes widened at the revelation of an heir to the Maxwell fortune. "This changes succession planning considerably," she said when Robert had finished. "The board will need to be informed eventually." "All in due time," Robert agreed. "For now, I need you to expedite Lisa's employment contract and coordinate with security to update her clearances. She'll be working directly with me on the family trust." After Eleanor left, Lisa turned to Robert. "You don't have to do all this. The trust fund and house are more than generous." Robert's expression softened. "Lisa, for 30 years I've built an empire with no one to leave it to. Now I find I have a granddaughter, Madison's child. Can you understand what that means to me?" Lisa nodded slowly. "But Lily's just 8. She doesn't need the pressure of being your heir." "Of course not. That's why you'll help me. We'll create a childhood for her that balances normalcy with preparation for what may come later." He hesitated. "If that's what you both want." 6 months had transformed their lives completely. Lisa and Lily had moved into the Westport house, a beautiful colonial, just 10 minutes from Robert's estate. Lily had transferred to a prestigious school for the deaf with an innovative mainstream program where she was thriving academically and making friends. Lisa had settled into her role at Horizon, working 3 days a week, managing Lily's trust and learning about Robert's vast business holdings. The other 2 days, she continued her education, pursuing a business degree Robert had insisted on financing. It was Friday afternoon, and Lisa was reviewing trust documents in Robert's home office when she heard the front door open. Robert and Lily had gone sailing, another passion they discovered they shared. "We caught a fish!" Lily's voice rang out, her excitement making her volume control less precise. Lisa stepped into the hallway to find Lily bouncing with energy while Robert carried fishing equipment. "It was this big," Lily signed, her hands stretching wide. "It was half that size," Robert signed back with a wink to Lisa. Lisa smiled at their easy rapport. Watching them together still amazed her, how quickly they'd bonded, how naturally Robert had stepped into the role of grandfather. "Mrs. Chen made lemonade," Lisa told them. "Why don't you wash up and I'll pour some?" As Lily raced to the bathroom, Robert set down the fishing gear. "She's doing well with her new hearing aids," he observed. "The speech therapist says her progress is remarkable." The advanced hearing aids had been Robert's first major expense for Lily, custom devices that gave her much better sound recognition than her previous basic models. Combined with intensive therapy, they had significantly improved Lily's speech. "She works so hard," Lisa agreed. "Sometimes I worry it's too much pressure." Robert nodded thoughtfully. Madison was like that, determined to excel at everything. These casual mentions of Madison had become more frequent as Robert grew comfortable sharing memories with Lisa. It seemed to bring him comfort, connecting the past to the present. In the kitchen, Mrs. Chen was preparing dinner, while Lily, freshly washed, chattered in sign language about their fishing adventure. The elderly housekeeper had embraced learning ASL with surprising enthusiasm. "Mr. Robert caught nothing," Lily signed mischievously. "I caught 2 fish. 3, Robert corrected as he entered. "The one that got away counts." The domestic scene would have been unimaginable a year ago. The billionaire CEO, the housekeeper, and the small family he'd discovered late in life, all communicating in sign language over lemonade. As they settled at the kitchen island, Robert's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening slightly. "Everything okay?" Lisa asked. "Thomas Brennan's sentencing is next week," he said, keeping his hands still so Lily wouldn't follow. "His lawyer is requesting leniency, citing his years of loyal service." Lisa nodded, understanding Robert's complicated feelings. Despite Brennan's betrayal, they had been colleagues for decades. "Will you speak at the sentencing?" "No." Robert was firm. The prosecution has my written statement. I've said all I need to say." Lily, sensing the shift in mood, tapped Robert's arm. "Can we go sailing again tomorrow?" she signed. Robert's expression softened instantly. "Absolutely, and this time we'll catch even bigger fish." Later, after Lily had gone to bed, Lisa found Robert in his study, looking through Madison's journal again. The leather cover was showing wear from frequent handling. "I keep thinking about all she missed," Robert said without looking up. "And all I missed." Lisa sat across from him. "She would be happy to see you with Lily." Robert closed the journal carefully. "There's something I've been meaning to discuss with you." His tone was serious. "I've decided to make some changes at Horizon. Step back from day-to-day operations." Lisa stared in surprise. Robert Maxwell stepping back from the company he'd built from nothing. It seemed inconceivable. "I'm 59, he continued. "I've spent my entire adult life building a legacy I thought would die with me. Now," he smiled slightly, "now I want time to be a grandfather." "Robert, you don't have to—" "It's already in motion," he interrupted gently. "The board approved my reduced schedule yesterday, 3 days a week, just like you." Lisa absorbed this information, understanding its significance. "What about the other 2 days?" Robert's eyes twinkled with uncharacteristic playfulness. "I thought I might learn to make pottery. Madison always said I needed a hobby that couldn't be monetized." The reference to Madison, made with fondness rather than pain, showed how far Robert had come. For the first time, Lisa truly believed that her impulsive decision 6 months ago to show Robert the secret sign had been the right one. 1 year after Lily had made the secret sign that changed everything, Lisa stood in the crowded ballroom of Robert's estate, watching her daughter captivate a group of Horizon Enterprises board members. At 9 years old, Lily had blossomed under her grandfather's doting attention, her confidence growing alongside her improving speech. "She's explaining her science project," Eleanor Sullivan explained, joining Lisa with a champagne flute. "Something about sustainable energy. The board is impressed." Lisa smiled, still not entirely comfortable at these corporate gatherings, despite having attended several over the past year. Robert's been working with her on it for weeks. "I think he enjoys the homework more than she does," Eleanor laughed. "He's a different man since you two came into his life, happier, more patient." She lowered her voice. "The shareholders have noticed too. Our stock is up 12% since he announced his reduced schedule. Turns out Robert Maxwell with work-life balance is good for business." Across the room, Robert was deep in conversation with Senator James Wilson, a longtime friend and political ally. Their discussion seemed intense, with Robert gesturing emphatically while the senator listened with furrowed brows. "Trouble?" Lisa asked, nodding toward them. Eleanor shrugged. "Politics. The senator's been trying to get Robert to support his campaign for governor. Robert's hesitant because of Wilson's stance on education funding. The event, ostensibly a fundraiser for deaf education programs, was Robert's first major public appearance with Lily. He had finally announced her existence to the board 3 months ago, presenting her as his granddaughter, without delving into the complicated history. The business world had been buzzing ever since about the mysterious heir to the Maxwell fortune. Lisa was still adjusting to the scrutiny. Just last week, a reporter had approached Lily outside her school, prompting Robert to hire additional security. The transition from anonymity to wealth hadn't been seamless, despite Robert's best efforts to shield them. "Ms. Parker," a tall man in an impeccable suit approached. "Michael Brennan, I believe you knew my father." Lisa tensed, recognizing Thomas Brennan's son, a successful attorney she'd met briefly during her time as Robert's assistant. "Mr. Brennan?" "Yes, I did." Michael's expression was carefully neutral. "I've wanted to speak with you since my father's sentencing, to apologize for how he treated you." Thomas Brennan had received 8 years for his crimes, a sentence that could have been longer without Robert's surprising recommendation for leniency. "That's not necessary," Lisa said. "Your father's actions aren't your responsibility." "Perhaps not. But his fall from grace has affected our entire family." Michael's gaze shifted to Lily across the room. "Just as certain revelations have affected yours." Something in his tone made Lisa uneasy. "What do you mean by that?" Michael smiled thinly. "Only that life can change dramatically in unexpected ways. One day you're an ordinary single mother, the next you're managing a multi-million-dollar trust." He raised his glass slightly. "Quite the fairy tale." Before Lisa could respond, Robert appeared at her side, his posture protective. "Michael, I wasn't aware you were on the guest list." "Senator Wilson's +1, Michael replied smoothly. "We're working together on his campaign." Robert's expression hardened. "I see. Well, if you'll excuse us, Lisa and I have other guests to attend to." As they moved away, Lisa felt Michael's eyes following them. "He blames me for his father's downfall," she murmured. "He blames me," Robert corrected. Always competitive with his father, Michael resents that Thomas valued loyalty to me over his own son. Now he's aligned himself with James, knowing I'm at odds with some of James's policy positions. Lisa glanced back at Michael, now conversing with the senator again. "Should we be concerned?" Robert considered this. "Not immediately, but I've learned never to underestimate a Brennan. I'll have security keep an eye on him." The evening proceeded without further incident. As guests began to depart around 11, Lily approached Lisa, trying unsuccessfully to stifle a yawn. "Ready for bed, sweetheart?" Lisa signed. Lily nodded, then looked around. "Where's Grandpa? I want to say good night." Lisa scanned the thinning crowd, but didn't see Robert. "He might be in his study. Let's check there." They found the study door ajar, Robert's voice drifting out. He was on the phone, his tone uncharacteristically agitated. "You're certain?" "Yes, I understand the implications. No, don't approach her yet. I need to handle this myself." He ended the call as Lisa knocked lightly on the doorframe. Robert turned, composing his features quickly, but not before Lisa caught the worry in his eyes. "Is everything okay?" she asked. "Just business," Robert said, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. He knelt to Lily's level. "Did you enjoy the party, little fish?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "Dr. Reyes from the board said my project could help real companies someday." "She's absolutely right," Robert agreed, his genuine pride momentarily displacing his concern. "You're already thinking like a Maxwell." After Lily had hugged her grandfather goodnight, Lisa lingered in the study doorway. "Robert, if there's a problem—" "Nothing I can't handle," he interrupted, then softened his tone. "Really, Lisa, it's just some old business resurfacing." Lisa wasn't convinced, but she recognized Robert's expression, the same stubborn determination she often saw in Lily. Whatever was troubling him, he wasn't ready to share it. "Good night, then," she said finally. "We'll see you for Sunday brunch." Robert nodded, already turning back to his desk. Wouldn't miss it. As Lisa helped Lily prepare for bed in one of the guest suites they kept at Robert's estate, she couldn't shake her unease. Between Michael Brennan's veiled comments and Robert's secretive phone call, she felt a familiar anxiety creeping back, the sense that their newfound stability might not be as secure as she'd begun to believe. Later, unable to sleep, Lisa slipped downstairs for some tea. Passing Robert's study, she noticed the light still on, voices murmuring inside. She paused, not intending to eavesdrop but concerned by the late-hour meeting. "Can't ignore this, Robert." Eleanor Sullivan's voice was low but clear. "If it's true, I need more time," Robert replied. "Lisa and Lily have been through enough changes this year. This would upend everything again." Lisa stepped back, heart racing. Whatever secret Robert was keeping, it involved her and Lily directly. The question was, should she confront him now, or wait until he was ready to tell her himself? The Sunday brunch tradition had become sacred over the past year, a time when Robert, Lisa, and Lily could pretend they were just an ordinary family. They gathered at Robert's conservatory, where glass walls offered views of the manicured gardens, now blooming with spring flowers. Today, however, the usual easy conversation felt strained. Robert seemed distracted, checking his phone frequently and responding to Lily's animated signing with delayed smiles. Lisa watched him carefully, noting the dark circles under his eyes that suggested another sleepless night. "Is everything all right?" she finally asked when Lily excused herself to fetch the art project she wanted to show Robert. Robert set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. "We need to talk, Lisa, not now." He glanced toward the doorway where Lily had disappeared. "But soon. Perhaps you could come to the office tomorrow." Before Lisa could press further, Lily returned, proudly displaying a detailed model of a sustainable city she'd created for her science class. The moment for questions passed, as Robert appropriately marveled at his granddaughter's work. The rest of the day unfolded with forced normalcy. A walk through the gardens, a chess match between Robert and Lily, which Lily won to Robert's theatrical dismay, an early dinner prepared by Mrs. Chen. By the time Lisa and Lily were preparing to return to their house in Westport, Lisa had almost convinced herself that she'd overreacted to Robert's secrecy. Then, as Robert helped load their overnight bags into Lisa's car, he pressed a small USB drive into her hand. "Review this tonight, after Lily's asleep," he said quietly. "It's everything my investigators have found. We'll discuss next steps tomorrow." Lisa stared at the small device. "Investigators? Robert, you're scaring me. What's going on?" Robert glanced toward the house, where Lily was saying goodbye to Mrs. Chen. "It's complicated and not entirely certain yet, but you deserve to know what we're facing." His expression softened. "Lisa, whatever happens, remember that this past year has been one of the best of my life. Nothing changes that." The drive home was tense, with Lisa struggling to focus on Lily's chatter about the upcoming school science fair. By the time they arrived home, completed Lily's bedtime routine, and Lisa had finally settled at her laptop with the USB drive, her anxiety had reached a fever pitch. The drive contained a folder labeled simply, "Brennan Investigation." Inside were dozens of files, financial records, emails, photographs, and a single video file. Lisa opened the video first. The footage showed a hospital room, date stamped almost 10 years ago. A woman lay in the bed, clearly in the late stages of pregnancy. Despite the poor quality, Lisa recognized her immediately. Madison. Her sister looked exhausted, but determined as she spoke to someone off camera. "I need you to promise me," Madison was saying. "If anything happens, take her far away from Robert. He can never know about her." The camera shifted to reveal a younger Thomas Brennan sitting beside the bed, holding Madison's hand. "I promise," he said. "But Madison, are you sure? Robert would provide for you both." Madison shook her head vehemently. "He'd control us both. You know what he's like. Everything and everyone becomes an asset to be managed. My child deserves better." Lisa paused the video, her hands shaking. Thomas Brennan had known Madison, had known about Lily. This contradicted everything she understood about the situation. She opened another file, a report from Robert's private investigator. It detailed a long-term affair between Madison and Thomas Brennan that had begun shortly after Madison's engagement to Robert. The affair had continued in secret after Madison left Robert, with Brennan providing financial support through hidden accounts. Most disturbing was the investigator's conclusion. DNA comparison between subject LP and samples obtained from T. Brennan show a 97% probability of paternal relation. Lisa read the line 3 times, unable to process its implication. Thomas Brennan was Lily's biological father, not Robert. She opened more files, piecing together a narrative that shattered everything she thought she knew. Madison had been involved with both men simultaneously. When she discovered her pregnancy, she couldn't be certain of the father, but feared Robert's controlling nature enough to flee. Brennan had helped her disappear, maintaining secret contact throughout her pregnancy. After Madison's death during childbirth, Brennan had arranged for Lisa and David to adopt the baby, keeping his connection hidden while financially supporting them through disguised channels. Money, Lisa had always believed, came from Madison's modest savings. The most recent files detailed how Brennan's embezzlement from Horizon had increased dramatically after Lisa's accident, coinciding with Lily's growing medical needs. He had directed significant funds towards specialized care for Lily, always through intermediaries to maintain his secret. Lisa closed the laptop, overwhelmed. If this was true, Robert wasn't Lily's grandfather at all. The foundation of their new life was built on a lie. An honest mistake, but a devastating one nonetheless. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert. "Have you reviewed the files?" Lisa stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Robert had discovered that the man he'd sent to prison was actually Lily's biological father. What did that mean for them now? For the trust fund, the house, their entire future? Before she could reply, another text arrived. "I understand if you need time. But Lisa, nothing changes how I feel about Lily, or you." Lisa set the phone down without answering. She needed to think clearly, to decide what was best for Lily before facing Robert or making any decisions. But one thought kept circling. Thomas Brennan was serving an 8-year prison sentence, unaware that Robert now knew his deepest secret, that he was the biological father of the child Robert had claimed as his bloodline. The implications were staggering. And somewhere in the back of her mind, Lisa remembered Michael Brennan's words at the fundraiser. Life can change dramatically in unexpected ways. Had he known? Was that a warning? Or a threat? The Horizon Enterprises executive floor was quiet when Lisa arrived the next morning. She'd barely slept, spending hours weighing options and responsibilities. She'd called in sick to Lily's school, leaving her daughter with Mrs. Chen at Robert's insistence. Whatever happened today, they'd agreed Lily should be shielded from adult complications as long as possible. Robert was waiting in his office, standing at the windows as he often did when troubled. He turned when Lisa entered, his expression grave but composed. "You reviewed everything?" he asked. Lisa nodded, setting her purse on a chair. "Most of it, enough to understand the situation. Then you know Thomas Brennan is likely Lily's biological father." Robert stated it flatly, a fact now acknowledged between them. "Yes." Lisa took a deep breath. "Robert, I had no idea. Madison never told me about Thomas. She said the father was someone she met after leaving you, a relationship that didn't work out." Robert gestured for her to sit, then took the chair across from her rather than retreating behind his imposing desk. It was a conscious choice, Lisa knew, an attempt to make this a personal conversation, not a business negotiation. "I believe you," he said simply. "Madison was protective of her secrets. She wouldn't have wanted either of us to know." "What happens now?" Lisa asked, the question that had kept her awake all night. Robert leaned forward, hands clasped between his knees. "That depends largely on what you want, Lisa. Legally, nothing has to change. The trust is established. The house is in your names. I've spoken with my attorneys. My claim as Lily's grandfather was made in good faith based on the information available. The fact that DNA has now disproven it doesn't automatically invalidate anything." Lisa studied him, trying to read behind the careful words. "But emotionally, can you still see Lily the same way, knowing she's not your blood?" Robert's expression softened. "Lisa, I've loved that child since the moment she made that secret sign. Finding out she's not biologically related to me doesn't change the past year of memories, of chess games and sailing lessons and science projects." He paused. "Unless you want it to." "Of course not," Lisa said quickly. "You've been wonderful for Lily. She adores you. Then perhaps the better question is, do we tell her? And do we tell Thomas?" This was the question that had tormented Lisa most. Thomas Brennan was sitting in federal prison, unaware that his biological daughter, the child he had secretly supported for years, was now being raised as the heir to his enemy's fortune. "Lily deserves to know her true history eventually," Lisa said slowly. "But she's only 9. I'm not sure she can process this level of complexity yet." Robert nodded thoughtfully. "And Thomas?" Lisa hesitated. Despite everything, she couldn't help feeling that Thomas Brennan had a right to know about his daughter. He had embezzled to provide for Lily's medical needs, had kept his promise to Madison to watch over the child from a distance. His crimes were real, but his motivations were more complicated than simple greed. "I think we need to talk to him," she said finally. "Not immediately, but soon, to understand the full story from his perspective." Robert's jaw tightened, the only indication of his discomfort with the idea. "I can arrange a meeting at the federal facility. Private, no recordings." "Would you come with me?" Lisa asked, surprised by her own request. "I know it's asking a lot given your history with him." "Of course." Robert's response was immediate. "We're in this together, Lisa. Whatever this turns out to be." The simple assurance brought tears to Lisa's eyes. Despite the shock and potential complications, Robert wasn't abandoning them. It was more than she dared hope for. "There's one more thing we need to discuss," Robert said, his tone shifting slightly. "Michael Brennan." Lisa tensed. "You think he knows?" "I'm certain of it." The timing of his appearance at the fundraiser was too convenient, and his comments to you too pointed. "My investigators found evidence that he's been receiving regular prison visits from Thomas for years. Whatever Thomas knows, Michael likely knows as well." "Is he a threat to Lily?" Robert considered this. "Not physically, no, but legally?" "Potentially. If Michael decided to pursue guardianship rights on behalf of his father, it could create complications, especially with Thomas serving a prison sentence that I helped secure." The thought of a custody battle made Lisa feel physically ill. "What do we do?" "For now, we proceed carefully. My legal team is preparing contingencies, but our strongest position is to maintain the status quo while we gather more information." Robert hesitated. "There is another option, though it's not one I'm advocating for." "What?" "We could approach Michael directly. Offer him a deal, financial compensation in exchange for signing away any claim Thomas might have to Lily." Lisa recoiled at the suggestion. "We're not buying off Lily's biological family. She's not a corporate asset to be negotiated over." Robert held up a placating hand. "I agree completely. That's why I mentioned it only as an option. I'm not recommending. I wanted to be fully transparent with you." Lisa calmed slightly, recognizing that Robert was trying to show her all possible paths, not pushing for any particular one. "I'm sorry. I'm just overwhelmed." "Understandably." Robert's voice was gentle. "This is a lot to process, especially after the stability we've all enjoyed this past year." They sat in silence for a moment, both contemplating the complicated path ahead. Finally, Lisa asked the question that had been nagging at her since reviewing the files. "Robert, if Thomas Brennan is Lily's biological father, and you know that now, why haven't you changed anything? The trust, the house, your relationship with Lily, you're acting as if nothing has changed." Robert's expression was thoughtful as he considered his answer. "Because in the ways that matter most, nothing has changed. I still love Lily as if she were my own blood. I've come to care deeply for you as well, Lisa. The three of us have become a family this past year, An unusual one, perhaps, but a real one nonetheless. He leaned forward, his voice becoming more earnest. I spent 30 years building wealth with no one to share it with or leave it to. Then Lily came into my life, and suddenly everything had a purpose beyond the next quarter's profits. Does it matter if that purpose came from a misunderstanding about biology? Not to me. Lisa studied him, moved by his sincerity. And if Thomas or Michael fight for custody or visitation? Then we'll face that together, Robert said firmly. But Lisa, remember this, Thomas had opportunities to claim Lily openly for 9 years. He chose secrecy instead. That choice has consequences legally and morally. As she left Robert's office an hour later, Lisa felt marginally better. The ground beneath her feet still seemed unsteady, but at least she wasn't facing this crisis alone. Robert's support was unwavering, his resources extensive, and his commitment to Lily genuine, despite the revelation about her biological heritage. Still, as she drove to Robert's estate to collect Lily from Mrs. Chen, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important, some piece of the puzzle that would explain why Thomas Brennan, after nearly a decade of secret support and surveillance, had suddenly embezzled such significant sums from Horizon Enterprises right after Lisa and Lily's accident. What had changed? What had frightened him enough to risk his career, his freedom, and his reputation? And most importantly, was that threat still lurking, unknown to them all? The Federal Correctional Facility in Danbury, Connecticut, was nothing like the prisons Lisa had seen in movies. The visiting area was clean and well lit, more institutional than threatening. Still, the series of security checkpoints and the hollow sound of electronically controlled doors closing behind them had set her nerves on edge. Robert walked beside her, his usual commanding presence somewhat diminished in this environment where his wealth and influence held little sway. They had come without lawyers, a decision Robert had made to keep this initial conversation unofficial. "Remember," he said quietly, as they waited in the visitor processing area, "we're just gathering information today, making no promises, no threats." Lisa nodded, clutching her purse tightly. Inside was a recent photo of Lily that she had debated bringing but ultimately couldn't leave behind. Whatever Thomas Brennan had done, if he was truly Lily's father, didn't he deserve to see how she had grown? A guard led them to a private meeting room, a concession to Robert's remaining influence rather than standard procedure. Thomas Brennan was already seated at the small table when they entered, wearing a khaki prison uniform that hung loosely on his frame. He had lost weight since his sentencing 6 months ago, his once robust physique now almost gaunt. His eyes widened slightly at the sight of them together. "Robert, Miss Parker, this is unexpected." His voice was raspier than Lisa remembered. Robert took the seat across from him, gesturing for Lisa to sit as well. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us, Thomas." Brennan's gaze shifted between them, wariness evident. "I was intrigued by the request. What could possibly bring the two of you here together?" His eyes settled on Lisa. "Unless he knows." The simple statement confirmed their suspicions. Brennan was aware of his connection to Lily. Robert's expression remained carefully neutral. "If you mean, do I know about your relationship with Madison Miller and the possibility that you are Lily's biological father?" "Yes, I know." Brennan closed his eyes briefly, as if absorbing a physical blow. When he opened them again, there was resignation in his gaze. "How long have you known?" "Recently," Robert replied, "though I've suspected something was amiss since discovering the patterns in your embezzlement. You directed a significant portion of those funds towards specialized medical care for Lily after her accident. Care that, coincidentally, was delivered through facilities with connections to your brother's medical practice." Brennan didn't deny it. She needed the best treatment available. Lisa's insurance wouldn't cover experimental therapies. So you stole from my company instead of coming to me directly? Robert's tone hardened slightly. Would you have believed me if I had claimed to be the father of Madison's child? After she left you so abruptly, after you spent years searching for her? Brennan laughed bitterly. You would have assumed I was lying to cover my own financial misconduct. Lisa intervened before Robert could respond. Mr. Brennan, I need to understand something. Madison never told me about you. She said Lily's father was someone she met after leaving Boston, someone who wasn't in the picture anymore. Brennan's expression softened as he turned to Lisa. That was the story we agreed upon. Madison was protective of our relationship. She feared Robert's reaction if he ever discovered we had been involved while she was still engaged to him. You betrayed me twice over, Robert said quietly, as my COO and as my friend. It wasn't planned, Brennan replied, a hint of defiance returning. Madison and I grew close while working late on the Asian expansion. You were so focused on the business then, Robert. Weeks where you barely spoke to her beyond discussing dinner plans or social engagements. He leaned forward, hands flat on the table. She was brilliant, but you treated her like an accessory, a beautiful, accomplished woman you could display at functions. I actually saw her. Robert's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, allowing Brennan to continue. When she discovered she was pregnant, she panicked. She couldn't be certain which of us was the father, and she wasn't ready to be trapped in the life you were creating for her. So she left. Brennan's gaze dropped to his hands. I helped her disappear, stayed in touch. When Lily was born, and Madison didn't survive, I made arrangements for Lisa and David to adopt the baby. Provided financial support discreetly. Why keep it secret all these years? Lisa asked. After David died, after the accident, we were struggling. You knew that. You could have acknowledged Lily openly. Brennan sighed heavily. Fear, primarily. Fear of Robert's reaction. Fear of disrupting Lily's life. Fear of being an inadequate father. And honoring Madison's wishes. She was adamant that Lily should have a normal childhood, not one defined by wealth or power struggles. Lisa reached into her purse and withdrew the photo of Lily, sliding it across the table. This is her now. 9 years old. Top of her class, despite the hearing loss. Stubborn, brilliant, and kind. Brennan picked up the photo with trembling hands. For a long moment, he simply stared at it, tracing Lily's features with his eyes. She has Madison's smile, he said finally, his voice thick. I've seen photos over the years, through Michael, but none so recent. The mention of his son confirmed another of their suspicions. Michael knows everything, Robert asked. Brennan nodded, still looking at the photo. He's been my connection to Lily since my arrest. He promised to watch over her. Is that why he approached Lisa at the fundraiser? To warn her? Partly warning, partly curiosity. He wanted to see the woman raising his half-sister. Brennan glanced up at Lisa. He has no ill intentions toward Lily or you, despite his resentment toward Robert. Lisa and Robert exchanged looks, silently communicating their skepticism. Brennan caught the exchange and sighed. I understand your distrust, but whatever you may think of me or of Michael, we want what's best for Lily. He carefully slid the photo back to Lisa, which brings us to the inevitable question, why are you here? What do you want from me? Robert leaned forward. Clarity, primarily, and to understand your intentions regarding Lily going forward. Brennan studied him for a moment. You mean, do I intend to assert parental rights from prison? Try to disrupt the comfortable life you've provided for her? He shook his head. I've made enough mistakes. Lily seems happy and well cared for. That's what matters. And Michael, Lisa pressed, does he share your view? A flash of uncertainty crossed Brennan's face. Michael is protective of family. He feels I've been treated unjustly, despite my actual guilt, but he wouldn't do anything to harm Lily. Something in his tone made Lisa uneasy. That's not quite an assurance that he won't cause problems. I can speak with him, Brennan offered. Make my wishes clear. But Lisa, you should know. Michael has evidence I've been sending funds to support Lily since she was born. Records, photographs, even a DNA sample I provided years ago as insurance. He glanced at Robert. If he felt threatened or believed Lily was being kept from her biological family intentionally, he might use that evidence. Is that a threat? Robert's voice was dangerously quiet. A reality we all need to acknowledge, Brennan replied evenly. I've had a lot of time to reflect in here, Robert, on my crimes, on my choices, on what truly matters. I won't fight you for Lily. She has stability and advantages with you that I can't provide. But I would like to know her someday, when she's ready, when you both feel it's appropriate. Lisa considered his words, studying the man who had secretly shaped so much of their lives. Despite everything, she couldn't detect deception in his request, only genuine longing and regret. If DNA confirms you're her biological father, she said carefully, then yes, eventually. But on our terms, when Lily is older and can understand the situation. Brennan's relief was visible. Thank you. That's more than I deserve. As they prepared to leave, Brennan addressed Robert directly. For what it's worth, I am sorry, Robert. Not just for the embezzlement, but for the deeper betrayal. Madison and I never intended to hurt you. Robert stood, his expression unreadable. Intentions rarely matter as much as actions, Thomas. But thank you for your honesty today. It's a start. Walking back through the prison corridors, Lisa felt emotionally drained, but clearer about the path forward. They would need to confirm paternity with an official DNA test, establish legal boundaries with both Thomas and Michael Brennan, and eventually, when the time was right, help Lily understand her complicated heritage. But one question still nagged at her as they reached the parking lot. She turned to Robert before they got into his car. Do you believe him? About his intentions? Robert considered this, the afternoon sun highlighting the new lines of strain on his face. Thomas? Yes, surprisingly, prison seems to have granted him perspective, if not absolution. He unlocked the car. Michael, however, is another matter entirely, and he's the one who's free to act. 2 weeks after their prison visit, Lisa was putting the finishing touches on a grant proposal for the Deaf Education Foundation Robert had established when her phone buzzed with a text from Michael Brennan. We need to talk. Ariel's Coffee House, 3 p.m. today. Come alone. Lisa stared at the message, heart racing. How had Michael obtained her personal number? Should she tell Robert? His protective instincts would certainly prompt him to send security, which might provoke exactly the confrontation they were hoping to avoid. After careful consideration, she replied, I'll be there, then immediately texted Robert, meeting Michael Brennan at Ariel's Coffee at 3. Thought you should know. We'll call you after. Robert's response was immediate. Not alone. Wait for me. Lisa sighed, typing back, he specifically said, come alone, I'll be in a public place. Trust me on this. 3 dots appeared as Robert composed and deleted several responses before finally sending, security team will be nearby but not visible, non-negotiable. Text the word lighthouse if you need immediate assistance. At precisely 3 p.m., Lisa entered the busy coffee shop in downtown Greenwich. Michael Brennan was already seated at a corner table, wearing a casual button-down that couldn't quite disguise his expensive tastes. He stood as she approached. Ms. Parker, thank you for coming. His tone was polite but reserved. Lisa took the seat across from him, setting her phone on the table, screen up, where she could easily type the emergency word if needed. What did you want to discuss, Mr. Brennan? Michael slid a folder across the table. First, evidence. DNA profiles confirming my father's paternity of Lily. Bank transfers showing his financial support since her birth, photographs documenting his discreet presence at key moments in her life. Lisa opened the folder, her stomach clenching at the contents. There was Thomas Brennan, standing in the background at Lily's preschool graduation. Another photo showed him sitting 3 rows back at a school play when Lily was 7, moments Lisa had no idea he'd witnessed. "Why show me this?" she asked, closing the folder. "Because you need to understand that my father has been a constant presence in Lily's life, even if she didn't know it." Michael's expression softened slightly. He loved her mother. He has loved Lily from a distance for 9 years, and now he's in prison, while a man who is not her blood relation claims her as his heir. "Robert believed Lily was his granddaughter in good faith," Lisa said firmly. "When evidence suggested otherwise, he didn't withdraw his support or affection." "Noble," Michael acknowledged with a slight nod, "but it doesn't change biological reality. My father is Lily's biological parent. That carries legal weight, despite his current housing situation." "Is this a custody threat?" Lisa kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. Michael leaned back, studying her. "Not necessarily. My father made his wishes clear during your visit. He doesn't want to disrupt Lily's life." He paused. "I, however, believe she deserves to know her true heritage, her biological family, before she's completely absorbed into the Maxwell mythology." "She's 9 years old," Lisa countered. "Too young to understand such complicated adult relationships. Children understand more than we give them credit for, especially gifted ones like Lily." Michael sipped his coffee. "But I didn't ask you here to debate child development. I have a proposal." "I'm listening." "My father will serve at least 5 more years, assuming good behavior. During that time, Lily will become a teenager, increasingly capable of making her own decisions." Michael set down his cup carefully. "I propose a graduated introduction. Begin with letters from my father, supervised visits with me as her half-brother, gradual integration of the Brennan family into her life." The proposal was reasonable, more reasonable than Lisa had expected. Still, she was wary. "And if we refuse, then I would be forced to consider legal options to secure my father's parental rights, options that would become public, messy, and potentially harmful to Lily's emotional well-being." Michael's tone remained conversational, but the threat was clear. "None of us want that, least of all my father." Lisa took a moment before responding. "I need to discuss this with Robert, and I'll need time to consider how best to approach this with Lily. Of course, family decisions should include all relevant parties." Michael reached into his jacket and produced a business card. "My direct line. I'd appreciate your response within 2 weeks." As he stood to leave, Lisa asked the question that had been bothering her since their meeting at the prison. "Why did your father start embezzling larger sums after our accident? He'd been supporting us modestly for years. What changed?" Michael hesitated, seeming to weigh his response. "Lily's hearing loss required specialized treatment, experimental therapies, equipment, future educational needs. The costs were substantial." Dad panicked, seeing no way to provide that level of care through legal channels without revealing himself. He could have come forward then, acknowledged Lily openly, and risk Robert's vindictive nature, the man who spent years searching for Madison with an almost obsessive determination. Michael shook his head. Dad made the choice he thought protected Lily best. After Michael left, Lisa remained at the table, thoughts swirling. The proposal wasn't unreasonable, but the implicit threat behind it troubled her. Introducing Thomas and Michael Brennan into Lily's life would fundamentally change her understanding of herself and her place in the world. She texted Robert, "Meeting over, heading back now, we need to talk." His reply came instantly. "Everything okay?" Lisa considered her response carefully. Was everything okay? They were being pressured to introduce Lily to a father figure currently serving a prison sentence and a half-brother with questionable motivations. Robert's position as Lily's grandfather figure was being challenged by biological reality, and Lily herself remained blissfully unaware of the adult complications swirling around her. "No immediate danger," she typed finally. "But complications ahead. See you soon." As she gathered her things to leave, Lisa noticed a man at the counter who had been there throughout her meeting with Michael, seemingly absorbed in his laptop. He closed it now, making brief eye contact with her before heading toward the door. One of Robert's security team, no doubt. His presence should have been reassuring, but instead it underscored the new reality of their lives, one where coffee shop conversations required surveillance and text message safe words. Lisa thought of Lily, who would be finishing her school day about now, excited about the science fair project she'd been perfecting all week. How long could they protect her from these adult complexities? And when they finally explained the truth, would she feel betrayed by the well-intentioned deceptions of everyone who claimed to love her? Absolutely not. Robert paced his home office, the proposed agreement from Michael Brennan's attorney spread across his desk. "These visitation terms are excessive and premature. Lily doesn't even know who Thomas is yet." Lisa watched him from the leather sofa, understanding his agitation but concerned by his rigidity. 3 months had passed since her coffee shop meeting with Michael. During that time, lawyers had exchanged increasingly detailed proposals, while Lily remained unaware of the brewing custody complications. "Robert, we need to consider this objectively," she said carefully. "The agreement only establishes a framework for eventual contact. Letters first, then supervised visits after 6 months, only if Lily is comfortable with the relationship." "And what happens when she learns I'm not her grandfather?" Robert stopped pacing, his expression pained. "That the past 18 months have been based on a biological falsehood." Lisa stood, approaching him with gentle determination. "You'll still be the man who taught her to play chess and sail, who attends every science fair and school performance, who reads with her every night you're together. Biology isn't what makes you family, Robert." He sighed, the fight leaving him momentarily. "I know that intellectually. Emotionally, it's more complicated." "For all of us," Lisa agreed, "but especially for Lily when she learns the truth." They had agreed to wait until after Lily's 10th birthday next month before beginning any discussions about her biological father. A child psychologist specializing in deaf children had been consulting with them on the best approach, how to explain complex adult relationships in age-appropriate ways without overwhelming Lily or making her feel deceived. "The alternative to negotiating is litigation," Lisa reminded him. "Public, messy, and ultimately harmful to Lily." "Michael has evidence, Robert. Solid DNA confirmation, records of Thomas's financial support since Lily's birth. And a father serving time for embezzlement," Robert countered. "No judge would grant him custody." "Not custody, no. But visitation rights? Possibly, especially after release." Lisa rested a hand on his arm. "I don't like this either, Robert, but fighting might cost us more than cooperating." Robert covered her hand with his, a gesture that had become familiar over the past months, as their partnership in Lily's care had evolved into something deeper, though still undefined. "I'll have my attorneys review their latest proposal. See if we can find middle ground." A soft knock interrupted them. Mrs. Chen opened the door, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but Lily is asking for you both. She seems upset." They found Lily in the media room, sitting cross-legged on the floor with Robert's tablet in her lap. Her expression was troubled as she looked up at them. "Why didn't you tell me?" she signed, her movements sharp with emotion. Lisa knelt beside her, heart sinking as she saw what was on the screen. A news article about Thomas Brennan's sentencing featuring photos of both Thomas and Robert. The headline read, "Maxwell Heir's mother connected to disgraced executive." "Where did you find this?" Robert asked, signing simultaneously. "I was researching famous deaf people for my history project. I searched my name with deaf and found this." Lily's signs were precise despite her agitation. "It says my mother knew this man, and that he stole money for medical care, my medical care." Lisa and Robert exchanged alarmed glances. They had been so careful to shield Lily from media coverage, but hadn't anticipated her own innocent research leading her to these connections. "Sweetheart," Lisa began, choosing her signs carefully, "this is complicated. We were planning to talk to you about it after your birthday. Is he why I have hearing aids?" Lily demanded, pointing at Thomas's photo. "Did he pay for them? And why is he in prison if he helped me?" Robert sat on the floor across from her, his knees protesting the unaccustomed position. "Lily, there are some things about your family that we haven't explained yet because they're difficult adult topics. But you're right to ask questions, and you deserve honest answers." Lisa was surprised by Robert's directness, but realized he was right. The moment they had been carefully planning had arrived unexpectedly. Better to address it honestly than try to construct more deflections. "The man in this picture is Thomas Brennan," Robert continued, signing. "He worked for me for many years. He knew your birth mother before you were born." "Madison," Lily signed, the name she had learned for her biological mother. "My first mother." "Yes, Madison," Lisa confirmed. She and Thomas were close friends. Lily's sharp eyes caught the hesitation. "More than friends?" Lisa nodded. "Yes. And there's a possibility, a strong one, that Thomas is your biological father." The word father hung in the air between them. Lily had known that David, the man she called Dad in her memories, wasn't her birth father, but they had never discussed who might have been. "But I thought..." Lily's hands faltered as she looked at Robert, confusion evident. "I thought you were my grandfather because of Madison." Robert's hands moved gently. "I believed I was. Madison and I were engaged many years ago before she met Thomas. When you came into my life last year, I thought you were my granddaughter. We all did." "So you're not?" Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "You're not really my family?" "Oh, little fish," Robert signed, using his special name for her. "Family isn't just biology. It's love and choice and time together. I chose to love you as my granddaughter from the moment I met you. That hasn't changed. It won't change, no matter what DNA says." Lily processed this, her exceptional mind working through implications. "Is that why he's in prison?" "Thomas, because he took money for my hearing aids." "Partly," Lisa admitted. "He made bad choices, even though his reasons were complicated. He wanted to help you, but did it in the wrong way." "Does he know about me? Does he want to see me?" Lisa nodded slowly. "He knows, and yes, he would like to meet you someday, but only when you're ready, and only if you want to." Lily sat silently for a long moment, absorbing this life-altering information. Then she looked at Robert, her expression vulnerable. "If you're not my grandfather by biology, do I still call you Grandpa? Do I still live here sometimes?" Robert's throat tightened with emotion. "You can call me whatever feels right to you, Lily, and this will always be your home for as long as you want it to be." Lily considered this, then made a decision with the direct simplicity of childhood. She moved to Robert, climbing into his lap as she had countless times before, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Against his shoulder, she spoke aloud, her voice carrying the slight flattened quality of the profoundly deaf. "You're still my grandpa. Biology doesn't matter." Robert held her tightly, meeting Lisa's eyes over Lily's head. In that shared glance was the recognition that while this moment had come sooner than they'd planned, perhaps it had come exactly when it needed to. Later that night, after Lily had finally fallen asleep following hours of questions and discussions, Lisa found Robert on the terrace, a glass of scotch untouched beside him. "You were wonderful with her today," she said, taking the chair beside his. "Direct but gentle, honest but reassuring. She's an exceptional child." Robert gazed at the night sky. Her capacity to process complex emotions puts most adults to shame. "She had questions about meeting Thomas," Lisa said carefully, "and Michael." Robert nodded. "I heard, and I've been thinking about our position." He turned to face her fully. "I've spent months fighting this out of fear. Fear of losing my place in Lily's life. Fear of the Brennan influence. Fear of change. But today, when she asked if she could still call me Grandpa, regardless of biology," he smiled slightly, "I realized my fear was unfounded. Lily's love isn't conditional on DNA. Neither should my acceptance of her full heritage be." "So you're saying?" "I'm saying we should accept Michael's proposal with some adjustments for Lily's comfort and security. She should know her biological father, her half-brother, her full story." He reached for Lisa's hand. "And we should be the ones who help her navigate that relationship, not the ones who stand in its way." Lisa squeezed his hand, relieved by his change of heart. "Thank you. I think it's the right decision, even though it's not an easy one." "Very little worth doing is easy," Robert replied. "Especially when it comes to family." "I'm nervous," Lily signed, fidgeting with the collar of her blue dress as Lisa adjusted her hearing aids. "What if he doesn't like me?" "Impossible," Lisa signed back, smoothing Lily's hair. "He already loves you, has for years." It was a bright Saturday morning, 6 weeks after Lily had discovered the truth about Thomas Brennan. Today would be her first visit to the federal prison, a carefully orchestrated meeting that both legal teams had spent weeks arranging. Robert would accompany them, but wait outside the visiting room, giving Lily and Lisa privacy with Thomas while remaining nearby for support. "Will he be able to sign?" Lily asked, her nervousness manifesting in rapid-fire questions. "Will he be wearing handcuffs? Will there be guards watching us?" "He's been practicing basic signs," Lisa assured her. "No handcuffs. And yes, guards will be present, but they'll give us space." The drive to Danbury was quiet, with Lily staring out the window while Robert and Lisa exchanged occasional glances, their own anxiety palpable but controlled. They had prepared Lily as best they could, explaining prison rules and setting realistic expectations. Still, Lisa worried about the impact of this meeting on her sensitive daughter. The prison procedures felt more familiar this time. The security checks, the hollow sound of doors, the institutional smell. Lily held tightly to Lisa's hand, her eyes wide as they were processed through visitor screening. "You're sure about this?" Robert asked Lily one final time before they separated. "We can leave any time you want." Lily nodded, her expression resolute despite her anxiety. "I want to meet him, to understand." Inside the visiting room, Thomas Brennan waited at a table, visibly nervous. He had lost more weight since their last meeting, but had clearly made efforts with his appearance. His hair was neatly trimmed, his prison uniform as presentable as possible. When he saw Lily, his composure faltered briefly, emotion washing over his features before he steadied himself. Lisa guided Lily to the table. "Thomas, this is Lily. Lily, this is Thomas Brennan." Thomas smiled tentatively. "Hello, Lily," he signed haltingly, clearly having practiced the greeting. Lily studied him intently, a habit she had developed to compensate for her hearing loss, observing faces and body language for cues sound couldn't provide. "You have pictures of me," she signed, her gestures precise. Thomas looked surprised, then nodded. "Yes, for many years. Mom showed me the ones you took at my school plays and graduations." Lily's direct approach was typical of her. "Why didn't you ever say hello?" Lisa translated the portions Thomas couldn't follow, watching as he considered his response carefully. "I made a promise to your birth mother," he said slowly, allowing Lisa to interpret his words into sign. to watch over you from a distance, to keep you safe but not to complicate your life, because you loved her, Madison. Thomas nodded, emotion briefly overwhelming him. Very much. And me? Did you love me too? From the first moment, Thomas answered without hesitation. You were so tiny, perfect. You had her eyes, her determination. Lily absorbed this, then asked the question Lisa knew had been troubling her. Why did you steal money if you were trying to protect me? That's what put you in prison. Thomas sighed heavily. After your accident, when you lost your hearing, I was scared. The treatments you needed were expensive. I wanted to give you every chance, every advantage. I made bad choices out of love and fear. He looked directly at Lily. It was wrong. I'm paying for those mistakes now, but I would do anything to help you, even then. Grandpa Robert pays for my treatments now, Lily informed him, and my special school. Thomas smiled sadly at her continued use of Grandpa for Robert. I know, and I'm grateful. He can provide opportunities I can't. Because you're here, Lily gestured to their surroundings. Yes, and because he has resources I never had, even before. Thomas leaned forward slightly. Lily, I want you to know something important. I don't expect to replace anyone in your life. Robert, David, who raised you, they are your family too. Family comes in many forms. Lily considered this. Michael is my brother? Half-brother? Yes, he's looking forward to meeting you next week. Thomas hesitated. He can be intense sometimes, but he cares about family deeply. Like you care about me, even though you didn't raise me? Exactly like that, Thomas confirmed. The visit continued for the allowed hour, with Lily gradually relaxing as she asked questions about Madison, about Thomas's childhood, about family medical history. Lisa observed with a mixture of apprehension and pride as her daughter navigated this complex situation with remarkable maturity. When their time was nearly up, Lily surprised them both by asking, "Can I hug you, or is that not allowed?" Thomas glanced at the guard, who nodded permission for brief physical contact. "I'd like that very much," he said, voice thick with emotion. Lily moved around the table and gave him a quick, somewhat awkward hug. Thomas closed his eyes briefly, savoring the moment he had never expected to experience. "I'll write to you," Lily promised as they prepared to leave. "Mom says that's allowed." Thomas nodded, struggling to maintain composure. "I'd like that very much." In the car heading home, Lily was quiet, processing the experience. Robert had joined them, equally silent, respecting Lily's need to reflect. Finally, she signed, "He seems sad and sorry." "Yes to both," Lisa agreed. "He's not what I expected." Lily frowned slightly. "From the news articles, I thought he'd be scarier." Robert smiled faintly. "People are rarely what the news makes them out to be, especially people who've made mistakes and learned from them." "Will you come with me when I meet Michael next week?" Lily asked him directly. Robert hesitated, surprised by the request. His relationship with Michael Brennan remained strained despite their legal agreement. "If you want me there, of course." "I do," Lily signed decisively. "You're still my grandpa. Biology doesn't change that." She paused, then added with the startling insight she sometimes displayed, "And I think Michael needs to see that too." Lisa exchanged glances with Robert, both recognizing the wisdom in Lily's observation. Michael Brennan indeed needed to understand that bringing Thomas into Lily's life wouldn't displace Robert. That family could expand rather than contract with new connections. "You were very brave today," Lisa told Lily as they neared home. Lily shrugged slightly. "It wasn't brave, just necessary." She looked out the window thoughtfully. "He has my hands." "What do you mean?" Robert asked. "Thomas, his hands move like mine when he talks, not signing, just regular talking." Lily demonstrated a particular gesture. "I never knew where I got that from before." It was a small observation, but Lisa understood its significance. For years, Lily had searched for connections to her biological heritage, similarities to Madison in photos, traits she might have inherited. Now she had found a living link, a physical resemblance that confirmed her place in a genetic continuum. "Does it feel good?" Lisa asked carefully. "Finding these connections?" Lily considered this seriously. "Yes and no. Good to understand where I come from. Sad that it's complicated." She looked between Lisa and Robert. "But I'm glad you're both still my family. That hasn't changed." As they pulled into Robert's driveway, Lily had one more question. "When Thomas gets out of prison, will he come to live with us?" "No, sweetheart," Lisa assured her quickly. "He'll have his own place, but he'll be part of your life in whatever way works best for you." Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. As they entered the house, she ran ahead to tell Mrs. Chen about her day, her resilience once again amazing the adults who worried so much about protecting her. "She's handling this better than we are," Robert observed quietly. "Children often do," Lisa replied. "Their capacity for acceptance is something we lose as adults." Robert touched her arm lightly. "Thank you for guiding us through this. For pushing when I was resistant. You were right about Lily needing to know her full story, however complicated." Lisa smiled at him, appreciating his acknowledgement. "And you were right that we could face it together, as a family, however unconventional our family might be." As they watched Lily animatedly describing her prison visit to Mrs. Chen, Lisa reflected on the journey of the past 18 months, from desperate single mother to co-parent with a billionaire, navigating a complex web of biological and chosen family connections. Nothing had turned out as she expected when she first taught Lily that secret sign. But as Robert had said, little worth doing was ever easy, especially when it came to family. "I still don't understand why we're flying commercial," Robert grumbled, checking his watch as they waited at the crowded gate in JFK Airport. "The company jet would have been more comfortable for everyone." Lisa smiled patiently. "Because this is a normal family vacation, and normal families don't take private jets to Disney World." It was spring break, 10 months after Lily's first meeting with Thomas Brennan. The past year had been a careful balancing act, integrating Michael Brennan into their lives through monthly visits, maintaining regular correspondence between Lily and Thomas, all while preserving the core family unit that had formed around Robert, Lisa, and Lily. The Disney trip had been Lily's idea, a chance for all of them to spend time together in a neutral, joy-filled environment. Michael had agreed to join them for 3 days of the week-long vacation, a significant step in their evolving family dynamic. "There he is," Lily signed excitedly, spotting Michael entering the gate area. At nearly 11 now, she had grown taller, her confidence blossoming as she navigated her expanding family relationships. Michael approached, his usual formal demeanor slightly softened by casual travel clothes. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible." He bent to hug Lily, then nodded politely to Lisa and Robert. "Thanks for the invitation. I know this wasn't easy to arrange." Robert's smile was professional but genuine. Lily wanted everyone together. That's what matters. Their relationship had evolved from hostile to cautiously respectful over the past year. While they would never be friends, they had found common ground in their shared concern for Lily's well-being. As they boarded the plane, Lisa reflected on how much had changed. Michael visited Lily twice monthly now, taking her to museums, sporting events, and once to meet his fiancée Rachel, a pediatric audiologist who had immediately connected with Lily over shared interest in hearing technologies. Thomas wrote weekly letters, each one carefully preserved in a special box Lily kept. The DNA confirmation of his paternity had been a formality at that point, but it had provided legal clarity that benefited everyone. Most surprising had been the evolution of Lisa's relationship with Robert. What had begun as a pragmatic partnership had deepened gradually into something neither had anticipated. The first kiss had happened 6 months ago, after a particularly moving school performance by Lily. They had been taking things slowly, mindful of the complexities already surrounding their family situation. "I've never flown economy," Robert muttered as they settled into their seats, Lily taking the window, Lisa in the middle, Robert relegated to the aisle. "Do they at least serve decent coffee?" Lisa patted his arm sympathetically. "Welcome to how the other 99% travel." Across the aisle, Michael was already engrossed in his tablet, reviewing work documents before takeoff. Some habits died hard for both executives. "Michael promised to ride Splash Mountain with me," Lily signed excitedly. "He said he's never been to Disney either." "Sounds like you have a lot in common with your brother," Lisa observed. "Half-brother," Lily corrected automatically, then frowned thoughtfully. "Though that seems silly now. He's just my brother, really." Lisa smiled at Lily's straightforward assessment. She had adapted to the complex family structure with remarkable ease, incorporating new relationships without diminishing existing ones. Her bond with Robert remained as strong as ever, their weekly chess games and sailing lessons continuing despite the addition of Michael to her life. The flight passed uneventfully, with Lily alternating between watching the movie on her tablet and teaching Robert and Michael increasingly complex sign language expressions. By the time they landed in Orlando, even Michael had relaxed visibly, laughing at Lily's exaggerated signs for roller coaster and Mickey Mouse. The Disney resort impressed even Robert, though he tried to maintain his dignified skepticism. As they checked into adjoining rooms, Lisa and Lily in one, Robert in another, Michael in a third, Lily's excitement reached fever pitch. "Can we go to the Magic Kingdom right now?" she asked, practically bouncing. "Tomorrow morning, sweetheart," Lisa replied. "It's already evening. Tonight we'll have dinner and rest up for a full day tomorrow." Dinner at the resort restaurant proved surprisingly enjoyable. Michael shared amusing stories from his law practice. Robert recounted his first and only previous Disney visit, a business meeting with company executives 20 years earlier. And Lily kept them all entertained with her plans for maximizing their park experience. "I've researched all the rides," she informed them solemnly, "and created an optimal route to minimize waiting time." "Of course you have," Robert said fondly. "The Maxwell organizational gene is strong in this one." "Actually," Michael interjected with a slight smile, "the Brennans are known for their meticulous planning too. Dad used to create elaborate spreadsheets for family vacations." A brief silence fell as the mention of Thomas momentarily highlighted the absent member of their unusual family. Then Lily, with her characteristic directness, addressed it. "I wish Dad could be here too," she said, referring to Thomas with the title she had begun using in her letters to him. It had been her choice. Robert remained Grandpa, Thomas was Dad, and David, her adoptive father, was preserved in memory as Daddy. "He would love to be here," Michael assured her. "I'll take lots of pictures to share with him." "We'll do a special trip when he's released," Lisa promised. Thomas had been a model prisoner, potentially eligible for early release in another year. Maybe to the Grand Canyon. He mentioned wanting to see it. The momentary tension dissolved, and conversation resumed its easy flow. Later, as Lisa helped Lily prepare for bed, her daughter made an observation that caught her by surprise. "You and Grandpa should get married," Lily signed matter-of-factly. "You already act like you are." Lisa flushed. "It's more complicated than that, sweetheart." "Why? You love each other, it's obvious." "Indeed, out of the mouths of babes," Lisa thought. "We care about each other very much," she said carefully, "but marriage is a big step." "You're both just scared," Lily signed dismissively. "Adults make everything so complicated." Lisa couldn't entirely disagree with this assessment. She and Robert had been cautious, concerned about how a romantic relationship might affect Lily, worried about public perception given their unusual history. But their feelings had developed regardless, and Lily, it seemed, had noticed. The Disney vacation proved magical in unexpected ways. Lily thrived on the sensory experiences, the vibrations of the rides, the visual spectacle of parades and shows. Michael revealed a playful side Lisa hadn't witnessed before, donning Mickey ears without self-consciousness and waiting patiently in lines for Lily's must-see attractions. Most surprising was Robert's transformation. Away from the pressures of Horizon Enterprises, he relaxed visibly, laughing more freely, even joining Lily on the teacup ride that left them both dizzy and giggling. On their third evening, Michael's last before returning to New York, they watched the fireworks display over Cinderella's castle. Lily stood between Robert and Michael, each holding one of her hands, her face illuminated by the colorful explosions she couldn't hear but could feel vibrating through the air. Lisa, standing slightly behind them, was struck by the poignancy of the image. 3 generations of a family that had been formed through pain, secrets, and eventual honesty. Michael caught her watching and nodded slightly, a silent acknowledgement of their improbable journey to this moment. Later, as they walked back to the resort, he fell into step beside her while Robert and Lily raced ahead to the ice cream stand. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what?" "For making this possible. For allowing Dad to be part of Lily's life despite everything. For encouraging the relationship between us." He gestured toward Lily, now excitedly pointing out flavors to Robert. "I never expected to have a sister. Now I can't imagine life without her." Lisa studied him, realizing how much her perception of Michael had changed since their confrontational coffee shop meeting nearly 2 years ago. "She's lucky to have you in her life too." Michael smiled slightly. "And Robert, how's that relationship evolving?" His perceptiveness didn't surprise her. "That obvious, is it?" "To everyone but the 2 of you, apparently." Michael's tone was light, but his expression turned serious. "He's good for you both. I didn't want to see that at first, but it's undeniable." As they rejoined Robert and Lily at the ice cream stand, Lisa felt a sense of completion she hadn't experienced since before David's death. Their family was unconventional by any standard, a blend of biological and chosen connections, complicated by past mistakes and present growth. But it worked, not despite its complexity, but somehow because of it. Each member brought something essential to the whole. That night, after Lily had fallen asleep, exhausted from their day at the park, Lisa found Robert on the balcony of his room, gazing at the distant outline of the castle, illuminated against the night sky. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked, joining him. "Just reflecting on how unpredictable life can be," he replied. 2 years ago, I was a lonely old man with nothing but a company to show for decades of work. Now I have a family. Unconventional, certainly, but real. Lily says we should get married, Lisa said, deciding directness was the best approach. She thinks we're being unnecessarily complicated. Robert laughed softly. Smart girl. Gets that from both sides of her family, I'd say. Is she right? Are we overcomplicating things? Robert turned to face her fully. Perhaps. But we had good reasons for caution. Your life was upended when you walked into Horizon Enterprises with Lily 2 years ago. I wanted to give you time to find your footing, to be certain of your choices. And now? Lisa asked softly. Robert took her hands in his. Now I think we've been cautious long enough. Life is unpredictable, as we've both discovered. Why waste more time pretending we aren't heading in this direction anyway? Is that a proposal, Robert Maxwell? Lisa teased, though her heart was racing. A prelude to one, he corrected. The actual proposal will involve considerably more planning and probably a ring. But yes, consider this notice of my intentions. Lisa laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. Lily will be insufferably smug about being right. She comes by that honestly too, Robert replied, pulling Lisa closer, from all sides of her rather extensive family tree. As they stood together, the distant sounds of the park creating a backdrop to their quiet moment of connection, Lisa reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From desperation to stability, from deception to honesty, from isolation to family. None of it had been easy, but all of it had been necessary to arrive at this imperfect, beautiful present. The autumn leaves created a brilliant tapestry of color across the grounds of Robert's estate, now officially Lisa and Robert's home following their wedding 6 months ago. The ceremony had been intimate but joyous, with Lily serving as maid of honor and, to everyone's surprise, Michael standing as Robert's best man. The gesture had symbolized the remarkable evolution of their relationship from adversaries to family. Today marked another milestone, Thomas Brennan's release from federal prison after serving 4 years of his 8-year sentence. Early release for good behavior, combined with the non-violent nature of his crimes, had accelerated his return to society. Now the family awaited his arrival for his first unrestricted visit with Lily since their reconciliation. "Do I look okay?" Lily asked, signing and speaking simultaneously, a habit she had developed as her speech therapy progressed. At 12, she was growing into a poised young woman, her intelligence and determination undiminished by the hearing impairment that she now viewed as simply part of her identity. "You look beautiful," Lisa assured her, "and he'll be thrilled to see you no matter what." Robert entered the living room, carrying a tray of coffee and Lily's favorite hot chocolate. Michael just called. They're about 20 minutes away. The past 2 years had transformed their family in ways none of them could have anticipated. Michael had married Rachel, his audiologist fiancée, in a ceremony where Lily had proudly served as junior bridesmaid. Robert had officially retired from daily operations at Horizon Enterprises, though he remained chairman of the board, with Lisa now serving as executive director of the Maxwell Parker Foundation for Deaf Education. Most significantly, they had legally formalized their unusual family structure. Thomas had signed documents confirming his paternity while relinquishing primary custody to Lisa and Robert, with generous visitation rights to be activated upon his release. Meanwhile, Robert had legally adopted Lily as his granddaughter, ensuring her position as his heir while acknowledging her biological connection to Thomas. The doorbell rang precisely on schedule. Lily ran to answer it, with Lisa and Robert following at a more measured pace, giving her this moment of reunion. Thomas Brennan stood on the doorstep, Michael slightly behind him. Though still lean from his prison years, Thomas looked healthier than when Lisa had last visited him 3 months ago. His color better, his posture straighter. He wore a simple suit that Michael had helped him select for the occasion. "Dad!" Lily exclaimed, throwing herself into his arms with the unself-conscious enthusiasm that characterized her approach to life. Thomas embraced her tightly, his eyes closing briefly as he savored the moment he had dreamed of during 4 years of incarceration. "Look at you," he said, signing simultaneously, a skill he had mastered through prison courses and regular practice during Lisa and Lily's visits. "You've grown so much." The reunion moved inside, where initial awkwardness gradually gave way to the familiar rhythm they had established through years of letters and supervised visits. Thomas presented Lily with a carved wooden chess set he had made in prison, each piece meticulously crafted during months of patient work. "It's magnificent," Robert said genuinely, examining the craftsmanship with appreciation. "You have a real talent, Thomas." "Prison provides ample time to develop new skills," Thomas replied with a self-deprecating smile, "though I doubt I'll match Lily's level of play any time soon." "I'll teach you," Lily offered immediately. "Grandpa says I'm nearly ready for tournament play." Ideen. As Lily led Thomas to the library to set up the chess set, Lisa, Robert and Michael remained in the living room, giving father and daughter some private time for reconnection. "He's nervous," Michael confided, "worried about fitting into the life you've all built." "It will take time," Lisa acknowledged, "for all of us. But we've managed more complicated transitions before." Robert nodded agreement. "The important thing is that Lily has all of us supporting her. The adults can work out the details." This perspective, prioritizing Lily's needs above personal discomfort, had become their family's guiding principle. It had led them through delicate negotiations about holidays, school events, and the general rhythms of family life with remarkable success. Michael checked his watch. "I should call Rachel. Let her know we arrived safely. She's sorry she couldn't come today, but her patience." "Of course," Lisa said warmly. "Tell her we look forward to seeing both of you this weekend for the Foundation Gala." As Michael stepped outside to make his call, Robert slipped his arm around Lisa's waist. "How are you feeling about all of this?" he asked quietly. Lisa leaned into him slightly, drawing strength from his steady presence. "Nervous, hopeful, a little amazed that we've actually made it to this point." She glanced toward the library, where they could hear Lily's animated voice explaining chess strategies to Thomas. "2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this scene." "None of us could," Robert agreed. "Life has a way of surprising even the most careful planners." The past 2 years had brought other changes as well. Lisa had completed her business degree and taken an active role in both Horizon's charitable foundation and Thomas's reintegration planning. Robert had developed a passion for teaching, guest lecturing at business schools and mentoring young entrepreneurs. Together, they had created a family structure that defied conventional labels but worked beautifully for all involved. "Do you ever regret it?" Lisa asked suddenly. "Learning that Lily wasn't biologically related to you? All the complications that followed?" Robert considered the question seriously. "Not for a moment," he said finally. "Biology gave me no one. Choice and circumstance gave me a family." He squeezed her hand, "including you." Their quiet moment was interrupted by Lily's excited call from the library. "Mom, Grandpa, come see. I'm teaching Dad the Queen's Gambit." As they joined Lily and Thomas at the chessboard, Lisa was struck by the tableau they created. Thomas and Robert on opposite sides of the table, Lily between them, all three focused on the same game with expressions of shared concentration. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And after years of secrets and separation, reality, however complex, felt like the greatest gift they could offer Lily. Later that evening, after Thomas had returned to the transitional housing facility where he would spend his first 6 months of freedom, Lisa found Lily in her bedroom, organizing the letters Thomas had written her during his incarceration. "Happy?" Lisa asked, sitting beside her daughter on the bed. Lily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It feels right having everyone together, like all the pieces finally fit. Even though it's complicated?" "Life is complicated," Lily signed philosophically. "My friend Emma's parents are divorced and remarried, so she has 4 parents and 6 siblings across 3 houses. My friend Jason was adopted from Korea and has birth family there and adoptive family here. Everyone has their story." Lisa smiled at her daughter's wisdom. "When did you get so grown up?" "Probably around the time I realized adults don't have everything figured out either," Lily replied with a cheeky grin. As Lisa tucked her in, a ritual Lily still enjoyed despite insisting she was too old for it, she reflected on their journey. The desperate single mother who had taught her daughter a secret sign had never imagined the life they would build from that moment of courage and hope. Through all the complications and revelations, one truth remained constant. Love, in its many forms, was worth every risk, every challenge, every moment of uncertainty. And as she joined Robert on the terrace outside their bedroom, Watching the stars appear in the autumn sky, Lisa felt a profound sense of gratitude for the unexpected path that had led them all here, to a family defined not by biology or convention, but by choice, forgiveness, and the daily decision to move forward together. 6 months later, spring sunshine streamed through the windows of the small Cape Cod cottage, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air as Lisa added another box to the growing stack in the living room. Moving day was approaching quickly, and despite Robert's offer to hire professional packers, she had insisted on handling her mother's belongings herself. Some tasks were too personal to delegate. "Need any help?" Thomas asked from the doorway, wiping paint-stained hands on a rag. He had been repairing window frames in the cottage's sunroom, part of the renovation project that had occupied much of his time since moving into the property 3 months ago. "I'm almost finished with Mom's books," Lisa replied, "but if you want to start on the kitchen cabinets, that would be wonderful." Thomas nodded, heading toward the kitchen with the quiet efficiency that characterized his post-prison demeanor. His early release had come with strict conditions, regular check-ins with his parole officer, community service hours, and employment restrictions. The transition had been challenging, but the family's support had made it manageable. Robert's offer of the cottage on the edge of his estate had raised eyebrows initially, but the arrangement had proven ideal. Thomas had privacy and independence while remaining close enough for regular involvement in Lily's life. The property needed substantial renovation, work that gave Thomas purpose while he rebuilt his life and navigated the complex dynamics of their unusual family. Outside, Lily and Michael were setting up croquet wickets on the lawn, a game that had become a family tradition during weekend gatherings. At 12 and a half, Lily had grown taller over the past 6 months, her preteen awkwardness balanced by the grace she had developed through the dance classes she now attended at a specialized studio for deaf performers. Lisa watched through the window as Robert emerged from his car, returning from a foundation meeting in the city. Lily spotted him immediately, running to greet him with the enthusiastic hug that, despite her increasing maturity, she still reserved for her grandfather. Robert's face lit up as it always did in Lily's presence, the transformation from serious businessman to doting grandfather still remarkable to witness. The past 6 months had settled them into a rhythm that worked surprisingly well. Thomas joined them for Sunday dinners and special occasions. He attended Lily's school performances and science competitions alongside Robert and Lisa. Michael and Rachel visited monthly, often bringing Rachel's expertise in new hearing technologies that might benefit Lily. Most importantly, they had developed an easy communication system that allowed all the adults to coordinate Lily's schedule without conflict or confusion. The shared calendar Robert had insisted upon, initially resisted by Thomas as overly controlling, had proven invaluable for managing the complexity of their arrangements. "Mom!" Lily called from outside. "Grandpa's here! Are you coming to play croquet?" "In a few minutes," Lisa called back, both signing and speaking, a habit they all maintained to support Lily's bilingual development. As she closed the last box of books, Lisa reflected on how far they had come from the desperate day when she had taught Lily that secret sign. The sign itself had become family law, occasionally used as an inside joke or private communication between Lily and Robert. Thomas entered from the kitchen, his expression thoughtful. "It still amazes me sometimes," he said quietly, nodding toward the window where Robert was demonstrating proper croquet mallet technique to Lily. "How well this has worked out, how he accepted me into your lives after everything that happened." "Robert understands what truly matters," Lisa replied, "and he loves Lily enough to set aside personal feelings for her benefit." "We all do," Thomas acknowledged. "It's the one thing that has never been in question, regardless of our other mistakes." The doorbell rang, announcing Rachel's arrival. She entered carrying a bakery box and medical files, the former for their shared lunch, the latter containing information about a promising new hearing aid technology she thought might benefit Lily. "Sorry I'm late," she said, kissing Lisa's cheek in greeting. "Patient emergency, but I brought those Portuguese pastries Lily loves to make up for it." "She'll forgive you anything for those," Lisa laughed, taking the box. "Everyone's out back starting the croquet game." As they joined the others on the lawn, Lisa marveled at the tableau before her. Robert explaining a rule to Michael, Lily demonstrating a particularly difficult shot, Thomas setting up the final wickets. The scene would appear ordinary to any casual observer, but Lisa knew the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment of simple family pleasure. Lily spotted them and ran over, eyes lighting up at the bakery box. "Are those from Nunes Bakery?" she asked eagerly. "Of course," Rachel replied, signing simultaneously. "I wouldn't dare show up without them." As they gathered around the patio table for an impromptu pre-game snack, the conversation flowed easily between them. Discussions of Lily's upcoming dance recital, Michael's latest legal case, Thomas's renovation progress, and Robert and Lisa's foundation work. "Before we start playing," Robert said, setting down his coffee cup, "Lisa and I have an announcement." All eyes turned to them expectantly. Lisa nodded for Robert to continue. "The Horizon Board has approved our proposal for a new initiative," he said, his expression reflecting the quiet pride he took in their shared work. "The Madison Miller Scholarship for Deaf Students in Science and Technology." Thomas's expression softened at the mention of Madison's name. "She would have loved that," he said quietly. "She always believed education was the key to independence." "The first scholarships will be awarded this fall," Lisa added, "with preference given to students interested in medical technology and auditory research." "Like what Rachel does?" Lily asked, glancing at her sister-in-law. "Exactly," Robert confirmed. "Your mother inspired the program, but you helped shape its focus." Lily beamed with pride. "Can I help select the recipients?" "When you're a bit older, absolutely," Lisa assured her. "For now, you can help us plan the launch event." As they resumed their croquet game, Lisa found herself partnered with Thomas, an arrangement that would have been unimaginable 2 years ago, but now felt comfortable and right. While lining up a shot, Thomas spoke quietly, so only she could hear. "Thank you," he said simply, "for allowing me to be part of this, for giving me a chance to know my daughter despite my mistakes." "We all deserved second chances," Lisa replied. "You, me, Robert, even Madison in a way, through what we're building in her memory." Utters, the game continued, with Lily's competitive spirit driving her to victory despite Robert's strategic expertise and Michael's precision shots. Her triumph was celebrated with ice cream on the patio, where the conversation turned to summer plans, a potential family trip to the Grand Canyon that would include everyone, honoring the promise Lisa had made to Lily years ago. As evening approached and Michael and Rachel prepared to return to the city, Lisa observed the easy familiarity that had developed between all the adults in Lily's life. Robert and Thomas discussing renovation details with surprising camaraderie. Michael sharing legal insights about Thomas's ongoing financial restrictions. Rachel and Lily deep in conversation about the latest developments in cochlear implant technology. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life," Lisa commented to Robert as they waved goodbye to Michael and Rachel's departing car. "Having second thoughts?" he teased gently. "The opposite," she replied, leaning against him as they watched Thomas and Lily engaged in an animated signing conversation on the patio. "I'm just grateful for all of it, even the difficult parts. They led us here." Later that evening, as they prepared to leave Thomas and Lily to their weekly father-daughter dinner, Robert paused at the cottage door. "Thomas," he said, with the directness that characterized their communications, Lisa and I have been discussing something we'd like your input on. Thomas looked up expectantly. The guest house on the main property, the one Lisa and Lily originally stayed in, is sitting empty. We thought you might consider moving there once your parole restrictions allow for a change of residence. It would give you more space and... Robert hesitated, then continued, it would make the family gathering simpler to coordinate. Thomas was silent for a moment, visibly processing the significance of the offer. You're sure? He finally asked. It wouldn't be. Uncomfortable for either of you? Lisa shook her head. We've moved well beyond discomfort, don't you think? We're family now, however unconventional. The guest house is a better living situation, and it's still independent enough for privacy. Thomas glanced at Lily, who was watching the adults' conversation with keen interest. What do you think, Lily girl? Would you like having me closer to the main house? Yes, Lily signed enthusiastically. Then we could have breakfast together sometimes before school, and you could help with my science projects more easily. The adults laughed at her practical assessment. Well, that settles it, Thomas said, assuming my parole officer approves the change. As they drove back to the main house, Robert reached for Lisa's hand. That was a big step, he observed. It felt right, Lisa replied simply. Time to move forward completely. Robert nodded agreement. Madison would be proud, I think, of all of us, but especially of Lily, and of you. The mention of Madison still brought a bittersweet feeling, but no longer pain. Her sister's memory had been honored through the Scholarship Foundation, through Lily's thriving development, and through the healing that had occurred among all who had loved her. Later that night, as Lisa checked on Lily before bed, a habit she maintained despite her daughter's increasing independence, she found her sitting cross-legged on her bed, looking through the old leather journal that had once belonged to Madison. Mum gave this to Mr. Maxwell, to Grandpa, when we first met him, Lily signed, her expression thoughtful. But she never showed it to Dad. No, Lisa agreed, sitting beside her. It was complicated then, but it's not anymore. Lisa considered this. It's still complicated, but in a different way, a better way. Lily nodded, wise beyond her years. I'm going to show it to Dad next time I see him. I think he should have it now. That's very generous of you, Lisa said, touched by her daughter's intuitive understanding. It might mean a lot to him. Family isn't just about who's related by blood, Lily signed, echoing words she had heard from both Robert and Lisa over the years. It's about who chooses to love each other, even when it's difficult. As Lisa kissed her goodnight and turned out the light, she realized that the secret sign, the gesture that had set their extraordinary journey in motion, had ultimately led them to the most profound truth. Family, in all its complicated, messy, beautiful reality, was worth every sacrifice, every risk, every moment of courage it required. Outside, the spring stars shone brightly over the estate, over the main house where Robert waited for her, over the cottage where Thomas was building his new life, over the guest house that would soon bring them all closer together. Different buildings, different histories, different roles, but one family, bound by something stronger than biology or convention. Bound by choice, by forgiveness, and by the love they renewed each day through the simple, profound act of showing up for each other, exactly as they were.